It is the middle of summer, and yes, I'm making cozy content. Hi friends, my name is Belle. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited that you are here with me today because I'm doing something very, very exciting. I've been an avid reader of classics for many years, and there has been one book on my TBR that has not been off of my TBR for at least 3 years, and that book is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. When I visited England and I went to the city of Bath, I stumbled across something very interesting. You see, a place that is now a bathroom was once the guest house where Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. That kind of sparked this desire in me that I really needed to read Frankenstein this summer, and I did. For a little background on this book, we need to talk about Mary Shelley. So Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein in 1816 when she was 18 years old. She wrote this in a competition, kind of, with Lord Byron, her husband Percy Shelley, and some other people who I don't remember who they are. The book is loosely inspired by Frankenstein Castle, which is in Germany. At this location, an alchemist held many experiments about 2 centuries before Mary Shelley actually visited the castle. Another thing that's really important to know about Mary Shelley is that she comes from a family of writers. Her father was a novelist and an atheist philosopher. Her mother was Mary Wollstonecraft, who wrote Vindication for the Rights of Women, Vindication of the Rights of Women. Her husband Percy Shelley was a poet and a writer who inspired a lot of her writing. So let's talk about genre of Frankenstein. I originally went into Frankenstein expecting it to be a horror novel because that's the genre that a lot of the films based on the book fall into, but I was sorely wrong. You see, Frankenstein is so much more than the run-of-the-mill horror novel. Frankenstein is sci-fi. It is like the epitome of Gothic literature. Frankenstein is phenomenal. So the story of Frankenstein, the way it's formatted, is very interesting to me. So in the beginning of the book, it is told in epistolatory style, which is letters, and they're written as letters by the sea captain who's planning a trip from Russia. We don't know where he's going, and he's writing these letters to his sister. And in these letters, he tells her about this man they found, and this man begins to tell the captain the story of his life. And this man who is on the ship happens to be Victor Frankenstein. So from there, we follow Victor's point of view in first person for about half of the book. As he grows up, we learn about his life, his family, his academic endeavors that lead him to invent his monster. And in case you were one of those people wondering, no, the monster's name is not Frankenstein. It is the last name of the inventor, Victor Frankenstein. So now you know. So then about halfway through the book, we actually switch perspectives. So we're still in Victor's head, but the monster is telling his side of the story, what happened to him, how he ended up where he was. And that was one of the things that really surprised me about this book, was the way that it bounced back and forth between painting this monster as evil and painting this monster as a victim. And I think it was very, very interesting and very thought-provoking. And then towards the end of the book, we get back into Victor's perspective and then finally back into the captain's letters. So yes, it's kind of complicated to follow, but I think it does make sense. And if you just keep going, you'll get there. Another false assumption I had going into Frankenstein was that most of this book was going to be about Victor inventing the monster. And I thought it was going to go super deep into like the gruesome details of that because this monster is made of like dead people. But it really doesn't. Almost immediately in the book, the monster is conceived. And then almost immediately after, Victor is regretting it, running for his life, and crazy things are happening. I will say the beginning part, like probably this much, is quite slow, but it gets very exciting very fast. So if you stick with it, we'll get to the good stuff. I think the thing that intrigued me most about this book was the question of what responsibility does a creator have to its creation and vice versa. We see Victor being put in a place that is godlike. He created a monster, and this monster looks up to him and respects him. And in many ways, not to give spoilers, the monster loses his respect and vice versa. And I think it's very telling about humans' relationship with God, about our relationship to the things we create, whether it's technology or art or music, how it can take on a life of its own and become not our own anymore. And those thoughts carry throughout the book. That theme carries throughout the book. And it doesn't give us an answer. Mary Shelley did not try to answer the question of what man's responsibility to God is or what a creation's responsibility is to the creator, but it toys with the idea, it puts it in different perspectives, and it makes for a very beautiful and intellectual story. Another thing I really wanted to look into when I was reading this book was feminist themes. Now, like I said before, Mary Shelley's mother was Mary Wollstonecraft, who wrote The Vindication of the Rights of Women. And this book is not feminist, but I think it does show feminist ideals. You see, like I said earlier, it's kind of science fiction. The way Mary Shelley describes nature and anatomy and science shows that she was far more educated than most women her age and in her time period, and I think that reflects on her parents. And I think that was very, very interesting to see, and especially seeing as this novel has very few female characters, we do see these female characters step up, and we do see them trying to make a difference in their world. And although they crave marriage and family, they believe that they have abilities as well, and I think that is such a beautiful thing. And it doesn't go overboard on the feminism, but it is there, and I did appreciate that just coming from Mary Shelley's background. Another thing that really surprised me when reading Frankenstein was when we're in the monster's perspective. By the way, the monster is never named, he's just Frankenstein's monster. It almost feels like a cottagecore book. If you are unfamiliar with cottagecore, it is an internet trend revolving around cottages and flowers and all that stuff. And Frankenstein feels like a cottagecore book. Now, it is gothic, it is academic, it is gory, there's murder and stuff in it, but a huge part is describing the beauty of a rural, quiet life. And that made me think that maybe there's a new aesthetic to be found within Frankenstein. And that aesthetic I have coined cottage gore, because there's a lot of gore in Frankenstein, but it's also cottagecore. So we have cottage gore, do with that what you will. I've widely read classics, but I tend to veer towards women's classics, things like Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters, and I've read Charles Dickens, but he can be very hefty. After reading Frankenstein, I decided that Frankenstein is the one classic I think I could recommend to any person. I think anybody from the age of 12 to 100 can read and enjoy Frankenstein and get things out of it. It's just that kind of book. This book falls under so many different genres. There's a murder mystery, there's sci-fi, as I said, adventure, it's kind of like a thriller. There's even romance and philosophy, and just so much in it that I think would speak to so many different people. It was truly an experience of a book. And it's a book that I'm so proud I read and so excited that I read. I was scared, you know, I'm used to reading Jane Austen and something like this felt unsettling, but this is your call to read a book that scares you, read a book that challenges you. Maybe that is Frankenstein, maybe it's a different book, but I think so much can be learned from Frankenstein about writing, about life, about monsters. I don't know. Truly, I hope that you yourself decide to pick up Frankenstein, whether it's this summer or in the fall. That would be a really fun time to read the book. Definitely do it. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know. If you liked this new format, let me know. And please like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, so I know that you're watching, and you will also get to know when I make new videos. So with that, have a great week and go read some Frankenstein.